Continuing with the tradition I started last year, here is a list of my favorite games of 2020. Last year I did it in 10 words or less, but that resulted in a very short and underwhelming video. So this year I'm going to talk a little bit more about the games of the year. Here is a list of my favorite games of 2020. There are only 7 this year, so I will be going with that. I didn't play the big multiplayer games this year, and I avoided most of the controversial AAA releases, so my list will be a lot different than the average YouTuber. Since I'm a smaller YouTuber with most of my income coming from jobs outside of YouTube, I don't feel that I have to pretend to artificially enjoy the popular games that I have no interest in. So most of my favorite games are a bit under the popularity radar. Now with that slightly confrontational disclaimer out of the way, here is the list. But first, I have some honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is the Xenoblade Definitive Edition. I got to play my favorite game of 2010 again. The change to the characters looked great. I mean, seriously, they really do. Look at the original drawings of the characters. The updates to the combat, systems, and quests were very welcomed, and the addition of the brand new content meant more Xenoblade. And I'm a big fan of more Xenoblade, considering that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 may be the last game for a while, since it seems that they're working on other games. If you haven't played this, you are excused from watching the rest of the video if you are going to play this game instead. Second honorable mention is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. I never thought that I would see another Bloodstained 8-bit knockoff game, but this was a pleasant surprise. I was annoyed by the difficulty at first, but I shut up and learned the game, and now it's great. While there are a few things that make the difficulty much harder than it should have been, like the knockback, I really liked this one. They forced a lackluster shmup part in it, but I won't hold that against them. Now for the list. Number 7, Persona 5 Royal. They took one of my favorite JRPGs in recent memory and made everything better. In fact, after playing this version, I don't think I can go back and play the original Persona 5 again. There's too much good stuff here with the quality of life changes. They did make a 100-hour game about 30 hours longer, but when it's all so good, I can't complain. Also, after giving it some thought, Best Girl is still debatable. F-U-T-A-B-A. Debatable. Number 6, Doom Eternal. At first we complained about the HUD design, then we whined about the gameplay being too arcadey, then we argued about the difficulty, then we griped about the Marauders, but eventually we took our punishment, got good, and demanded more. If you ever wanted the first-person shooter equivalent to a fast-paced character action game, this is it. It's fast, brutal, visceral, and pulls no punches. It may take some adjustment at first, but eventually it gets pretty good. This is not a game that you just play for fun. You have to kind of get over yourself and enjoy the game for what it is. The expansion that came out is crazy. id Software carefully looked at the complaints voiced by video game journalists about the seemingly overbearing difficulty of the Marauders, and decided very carefully to give them the finger and put more Marauders in the game. id Software has proven themselves to still be the most badass company in gaming, and this is their magnum opus. Number 5, Streets of Rage 4. This is definitely a game I did not expect. Streets of Rage came back and with a vengeance. They even brought back the old composers and they wrote a banger of a soundtrack. There are new gameplay mechanics that allow you to get health back after a superpowered move as well as defensive options. The enemies can be tough but aren't so gimmicky that it's not fun. It balances challenge very well and like any good beat 'em up is easy to learn, yet still has a high skill ceiling for the advanced crazy folk. The developers really care about making a competent product, and they listen to their community. If you like beat 'em ups and can stomach the knife-wielding Galcias, it would be a crime to miss this one. Number 4, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Now, you may have a beautiful soul, but you'll never be Ori beautiful. This game may be the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, and it will probably stand the test of time with its external beauty at least. But it's pretty on the inside too, unlike your girlfriend. Yeah, I know, that joke was cheap and easy. Like your girlfriend, am I right? They give you a sword, more movement options, and actual boss fights this time around. Despite some problems with hit detection, some tricky sections in that really dark area, I can see this as a game to come back to a few times. Also, to the guy who invented the bash skill, you need to get paid more. Number 3, Nioh II. In a year of viral outbreaks, brush fires, lockdowns, depression, unemployment, poverty, and the Trump presidency, at least I can still fight a sexy catgirl dominatrix with a whip and a flaming chariot for legs using a giant overcompensating ice sword. Nioh II is the definitive lockdown game. Hundreds of hours long, challenging, lots of loot, awesome weapons, epic bosses, a new game plus with new tiers of gear and endless RPG-style builds, and a giant run-on sentence. This game is the main reason I survived lockdown without being a nervous wreck crying on my floor. If you enjoy complex Souls-like games and losing a boss fight strengthens your resolve, play this one, right here, this one. Number 2, Hades. I'm not a big fan of Supergiant games, but this time they really nailed it out of the park. This game makes Greek mythology great again. I've never played a roguelike that made me care about the story. Enter the Gungeon had a unicorn gun and a bunch of ancient lore and a rap song, but I didn't care. The fact that I care about the story at all was great. Good stories take time, and this game tells a great story. Simple, yet with nuance, character development, and a purpose to the madness. On the combat side, weapons evolve, your skills get better, and there are so many builds you can make on the fly it makes your head spin. Every run is different, and if you fail, there's more story, and you get to strengthen your character, and maybe get a new weapon or upgrade in your next playthrough. It is rare that a game captures me the way this game has. I would often say to myself, one more run, and after several runs later, it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired, and I want to go to bed, but one more run. I'm happy that this game survived early access and has become the masterpiece that it is. But even the epic tale that Hades presents, it is no match for childhood nostalgia. My favorite game of 2020, number 1, Trials of Mana.
I do not believe in fairies!
I know, I forgot this game came out in 2020, but it did, and I was obsessed. With the Secret of Mana remake being a dumpster fire, I felt that the game that was my first RPG would not be given the respect that it deserved. I've tried to play Trials many times over the years, but it just didn't grab me like Secret of Mana did. I was older, and the appeal of an old JRPG was much less. This game was the perfect update that I needed. This is what I wanted the Secret of Mana remake to be. The game is colorful, cute, and, waifus. The combat is really fun, there's classes, and upgrading, and an endgame dungeon. It is a bit dated in spots, but this is what I always envisioned a Mana game to look like. A lot of games can take you to a place in your life, but in playing this, I felt like I was 13 again, waking up Saturday morning to play 4 hours of a Mana game before my parents got up and made me do chores. But beyond nostalgia, this game had something in it that used to be in more games. Fun. It's fun to fight, to explore, to level up, to beat bosses. It was even fun to grind. You can play through it at least 3 times and get a different experience every time. I fully embraced this game, and it was a strong enough bond that even the most well-crafted AAA title, our masterful indie darling, could not compete. Now, there are a few issues. The voice acting sucks.
I never dreamed I would have the chance to face my son in battle. This, too, is thanks to the providence of the goddess of mana.
The story is pretty typical, and the AI can be pretty dumb.
Blast it!
But if you play this game with the original soundtrack and no voiceover, it'll take you back to the 90s. Trials of Mana is everything I wanted in a game this year. Fun and engaging without being a cheap party game or microtransaction-filled greed fest. Good, satisfying combat and exploration without having to pull up a map with icons and find the nearest quest point. A game that didn't need 1,000 patches to make it good 6 months later. This game is the best game of the year because I was happy when I was playing it and miserable when I wasn't. It hit me right where it counts. My heart. Well, that's the video. I hope you didn't get too mad by my choices, and there's always next year. Please subscribe if you enjoyed my video. I really need some subscribers these days. I feel like I'm making videos for nobody. Just click that little button. It will help me out a lot. Happy New Year from Twisted Banana Productions. See you in 2021.